Hello, in this video we are going to learn how to build this game in Python where you can move a car on the screen using the keyboard to collect a passenger, and you have 3 seconds that you can see on the screen to collect the passenger. Every time that this happens, you will see the score updating on the screen as well, and if you lose, then you are able to restart the game by pressing R. The car also cannot leave the screen, as we can see here, and as well move very fast compared to the basic version that we are going to do first to get you warm up. In this basic version, we have a fox that move around the screen and collect the coin. However, here you don't show the time running to the user, and as well the fox can leave the screen, which is not very nice to do. Stay here and we're going to learn how to do this together. Hey, if this is your first time here or you haven't built any computer science game in Python before, don't worry. On YouTube or Bilibili, you can find the previous 2 videos where we follow 4 steps to set up our computers to start developing our games in Python. And we built our first game, which was shooting the fruits, skills that we will need for the game that we are going to build today. But don't worry, I will guide you step by step through the process of building this game. Okay, the first thing that we're going to do is to open Sublime Text and create a new file here. But before you start typing all the code of your game, you need to make sure that you save the file as a Python file. You can call it however you want, but you need to save it as a py file using the corresponding extension so that the compiler knows that you need to color code it as a Python file and run it as well. Now that we have the Python file, we can start typing our code. Let's give some structure using some comments. For example, we first going to import the libraries, and then we are going to run the game. So the first library that we need is the Python 0 library, which is import pgzrun. And in order to run our game, we are going to use pgzrun.go. Now, how do we run this game? Well, we need to go to Tool and Build, or we just use Command B. Here is our game environment, but it doesn't have anything, right? Let's resize the screen to see our game environment in the size that we prefer. For example, I prefer the size of 500 and 500 so that I can have the screen here, the game here running. As you can see, I can see it under the camera, but you can resize it as you want. Just keep in mind that the size of your game is the boundary where you will have to move around there. So very big will means that you will need more time to reach the coin, and the time may not be enough for the players. Here, now that we have our images and the images are saved in the corresponding folder, the same folder where the file of our game is, we can, using the corresponding name, insert those elements to our game using the actor. So let's do that. Remember that the names of the files can start with capital letter because it will give you an error here. And now that we have this, we need to draw our elements on the screen. And we need to also change the default background screen color. So we are going to do that by creating a function called draw. The first thing is to change the screen background, and this will be, let's say that we want red. And now we need to draw the fox and the coin. So we have fox that draw here, and we have the same for the coin that draw. If we run our game now, we will see that the fox and the coin are on the screen, and the screen background is red. What we want to do is to change the position of the coin randomly and make the fox move using the keyboard. Let's first start by making the fox move using the keyboard. We are going to create now a function for updating the character position, and that function I will call it update. And in this function I will have first the input of the keys on the keyboard to change the position of the fox. For example, I can start saying that if keyboard is pressed the left key, then what do I want to do? Then I want to change the position of X of the fox to something to the left. So we are going to say fox position X, which is the same thing that we had before, minus, let's say 5. So if I press left key, it will move to the left 5 pixels there. So let's see. If I run this and I press less, it goes. You see, it goes. The only thing is that we need to have the right one as well to bring it back. So let's do that. We do this by saying a else if, and we have the same thing as before, so we can copy and paste. Instead of left, we have right here, and we're going to have the X position of the fox, change it instead of negative, which will go left, you say positive. If we run this now, we see that I can move right and left, right and left. We can do the same thing for up and down. So let's do that. The only thing that you need to remember is that now we are changing the Y position of the fox, not the X. And if we want to go up, we need to change the Y minus something so that it decreases. It started from the top to the bottom. So when you say minus, it goes up. Let's try that. You see, it went up. And now we are going to finish this by adding the down. Here we have down. Make sure that when you are pasting your values, you are using the correct indentation. It means that the space here is the same, because if not, it can be outside of the function. So here we are going to have down, and we are going to change this to plus. Let's do that again. Now we can go up, down, up, and right and left. Perfect. We just achieved the first target, be able to move the fox. Now let's type the code that will help us to check that the fox is touching the coin, and that will generate the coin position randomly on the screen. So to check that they are touching each other, we can use the function collide direct. So we can say if the fox is collide direct with the coin, then I want to do something. What I want to do, I want to change the position of the coin. Okay, now to change the position of the coin randomly, we need to insert the random function, because we just want to change the X and the Y position of it to a random number between the boundaries of the screen. in height and width. So here, where we have our library, we're going to import the runInt function from the random library. Let's now create our score variable and use this variable to present on the screen the score. Here on top, where we have our creating our elements and variable comment, we want to create our score variable. We initialize it in 0 because the score needs to start in 0. And within the function draw, where we change the background and draw our elements, we want to draw a text on the screen. And that text will be a combination between the score value and the score text that we can change the color and change the position on the screen. Here, for example, we say screen.draw to draw something. What do we want to draw? The text. Okay, it will say score. It will have a little space. You don't need it. And it will concatenate this with the score value. But this is an integer. We want to change this to a string first. That's why you have str there. And we can change the color to black or any other color that you prefer. I change it to black because my screen background is red. And I want to change the position 10 and 10 in the top left for X and for Y. Okay, now that we are able to see the score, and let's check on that. Yes, we can see the score here is 0. Let's update that value of the score. To update the value of the score, we just need to know where are we updating it. Well, every time that they touch each other. When they touch each other, you want to update the score to a score plus 10. So it will increase by 10. If you say plus 1, it will increase by 1. Doesn't matter. But the function update doesn't know who score is. So you need to make sure that you say global score to let them know, hey, you know a score now. So now when you run the game, they start in the same position. That's why you have already a score of 10. And here you see that it's being updated. Now, because they start in the same position, it will be useful for us to change the position of the coin randomly since the beginning and make the fox to start in the same position always. For example, it is fair to make the fox start in the middle, so it have the same distance to each other points on the screen. To do that, we just need to say fox position equals to the half of the screen in width and height, which is 250 in X and 250 in Y. Okay, like this, the fox will always start in the middle, as you can see here. The coin, we already replaced the coin position here automatically, in this case randomly. So we can copy this and put it here on the coin. When we create a coin, we say, okay, I want to change the X and Y position of the coin randomly. And now every time that you run the game, you will see that the coin position will be in a different place. Cool. So we have a score updated and we have the position of the coin randomly since the beginning and the fox being in a fair position. That's great. We just need now to make sure that our fox cannot leave the screen, because now you can see that the fox can leave the screen. We don't want that. And we want to give a time for the game, because if not, it will run forever. And that is not interesting. First, let's make sure that our fox doesn't leave the screen. Remember when we move the fox here, we want that to be fixed. Means we want to keep the fox on the screen. We want to make sure that the value, for example, when we run it, you can see here the X value here is 0. Here the X value is the same as the width, which is 500. Then, therefore, when you are moving your fox here, the X value is changing. If the X value is outside this boundary here, it will be smaller than 0. So you want to select, okay, if it's outside here, I want it to be 0. And if it's outside here, I want it to be 500. So this always fits it to that value. We can do that by saying fox in the position X will be equal to the maximum value between 0 and the fox position. Like this, if the X is smaller than 0, it will fix it to 0 because 0 is maximum than X. Let's see if this works. Look, I will move it. I'm trying to push it, but it doesn't go out. Of course, look, 0 is not a good number because you can take out half of the fox. So we can change this instead of 0, 15, run it again and see. Okay, my fox cannot leave the screen. Actually, 20 sounds, we can check. You can see that more accurate by the size of your fox and take the half of it. Okay, now how do we make sure that it doesn't go outside in the right side? Well, to do that, we need to do the opposite. Here, we did the maximum between 20 and whatever the fox position in X is. So, we want that for the over part, we want to make sure that is within the minimum between, let me run it for you here. When it's here, right, the X position, let's say 499, that is smaller than 500, which is the total width. So I just say whatever the minimum is between 500 and the position of the fox. So if it goes out, it will fix it to 500. So I want to say that instead of this, you want it to be the minimum between what numbers? Well, the total width, which is 500, and the fox position X. Now, it will not go outside here neither. Of course, you see that it's not good to have it to the total width. We can say the same offset that we did here, we do it here. Width minus 20. And now you will see. Okay, cool, it fits it. If this is so hard to understand for you, you can change this. Instead of having it in one line, you can change this to fox position, and you can do it in two parts. But let me know in the comment if you don't understand this and I can help you. We are going to do the same thing for the Y. The Y value of the fox, in this case, will be between, instead of width, you put height. And like this, when you run it, you will see that the fox cannot leave the screen up and cannot leave the screen out. Of course, you can see that 20 is not enough, so you can have, because the fox is higher than what the width that it has, so you can play around with these numbers. Now, we just need to include the time in our game. To do that, we need to use the function time from the library time, because this will let us to use the system time at any moment. And for example, if you say that you have 5 seconds to play, right? At the beginning of the game, it will capture that time, and then it will say, okay, subtract that 5 seconds. From those 5 seconds, subtract the time that have passed since the start to the current time. And that will be your time left. Let's see this in code. Let's create those variables that will help us with the calculation of the time left. The starting time will be 0. We have the time left equal to whatever at the beginning, whatever the total time is, time that we are giving the user to play. Let's say 5 seconds between, if you don't cash the coin in 5 seconds, it's over. Now that we have our variables that will help us to calculate this time, we need to create a function that will reset this time, because remember, every time that we collect the coin, you want to restart the 5 seconds count. Every time that you start the game, you want to restart the 5 second count. So let's create, look, the function draw is here, end up here, and you have the function update that end up here. Now let's create our function for reset time, and we call it reset time. And what this will do is that will make the starting point, the starting time, equal to the time of the system at that moment. And it will make the time left whatever is the total time. So it will capture the time on the system, and this is my starting time, and the time left is the total time. So like this, we can make sure that we can update the time left all the time. Now, in order to do this calculation, we need to note, and in order to modify these values, we need to know the start time here and the time left. Okay, that's good. This will just take the time of the system and it will save it in the starting time. That will be my starting time every time that we run the program, and it will take the total time and make the time left as the total time. But we need to update this all the time. The time left need to be updated. So in our update function that happens all the time, we want to change the time left. So the time left will be whatever the total time is minus the time that have passed. Time passed. And what is this time passed? Well, time passed basically will be the time of the system at the moment minus the starting time, which is the time where I start running my program. And for this will need to modify the time left, so we give it to it, and we give also the start time. If we run this now, what it will do is that when it starts the system, it will save the value of that time in the starting time. And the total time will be the same as the time left, okay? And when it gets here, it say, let me calculate again, what is the time that have passed since I start the game? And that difference will be the time that have passed. And finally, the time left will be the total time minus that time that have passed. And I can see from 5 seconds, now it have passed 2 seconds, so the time left will be 3 seconds. That's how this works. Then all the thing that we need to add to this is that we need to show this on the screen, right? And we need to take a decision when the time left is smaller or equal to 0. So here, when we show the score, right, we want to also show the time. We can change it to the top right instead of top left, and instead of a score, we want to show time left. Instead of saying a score, we say time left. However, time left is not an integer. It will be a float, a decimal with a lot of decimal points. So we want to round this to one position. So we use the function round, and within the parenthesis, we set the time that we want to round. That time is the time left minus, in one decimal point. So it will only keep 4.2, 4.1, 4.0. And this is how we chose the time. Let's see. Here you see the time running. It's wrongly placed because here say top right and say the same. Let's just put it here the same top left, but changing the Y position to 30. So it is down. Later we put it in the coin. Here you can see. Tan 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 is running. Is 0, minus 0, and so on. Now, we want that when we capture the coin here, we want to reset the time. So we want to call reset time function. And like this, it will reset the time. Let's see. Here, when I collect the coin, it reset the time. Reset the time, reset the time. That's good, that's perfect. Now, we just need to do something when the time is 0 or smaller. So that will be our game over screen. Because we are going to change the screen, we can go to the draw function here, and we say, okay, after you draw your elements, if what? If time left is smaller or equal to 0, then I want you to change the fill of the screen to another color, let's say black. And I want you to say the test game over. So we want to say game over, and we want to still show the score. So let me show you this. We want to have these two here. This, what it does is that it draws on test called game over. It set the color to white because the screen is black. We make it in the center of the screen and in the exactly position of the half of the width. That's why we have here the width divided by 2. And under that, you see this is for the y value, this is for the x value. Here, for the under that, we are going to write the score that we collect at that point. When the time get to be smaller than 0, it will change to this screen. Let's see. Here, time is 5 seconds, it goes down to 0, and boom, game over, score 0. So let's run this and play. Let's collect some coins and see if the score update when it goes game over. Let's see. Perfect, score 20, game over. That's awesome. We just need one little thing. The one little thing, and that's the end, I promise, is to be able to restart the game. Because right now, here, as you can see, you have to close the game and build the game again so that you can run the game. And that's no nice. So when you are in this screen, you want to be able to press R, collect that information from the keyboard, and restart the game to the initial conditions where the score is 0, the time is the same as the total time, and the elements are present on the screen. And that will happen if the time left is not 0. So basically, if we manage to change the time, to reset the time, when we press R, then the whole game will start again. So we're going to create a function here that will be for reading that keyboard from the keyboard, that key from the keyboard. Here we want to collect the key, and we want to see, okay, if the key that you press is equal to the R key on the keyboard, then I want to reset the time, because that will help me to restart the game. But I need to place a coin as well. I need to place the coin in the random positions that we have before. So we can copy from here at the beginning where we reset the coin values. Let's do that here. We just need to make sure that we are copying it in the right place so it doesn't give us error for indentation problems. Okay, now that function we need to know, because it will modify the coin and also the score, because the score will be started again. So we want to make sure that the score is equal to 0. And we want to make sure that the time is the same as total time, but that will be done in the function here, start time. So let's run this. Here, now, if you wait for 5 seconds and we press R, the game start again. If I have some score and it's game over, it will restart my score. Let's see. The score is steady. I press R and the score is 0, time restart. Make sure the key is lowercase and the score is on the screen. The last thing is to make sure that we show the person playing, the player, that he can restart the game if he press R. It's the same thing as we already have. We under the score here, we're gonna copy the whole thing, we're gonna paste, and instead of this, we're gonna say, oh, just press R to restart. Press R to restart the game. And we make sure that the Y position is under that one. With this, when we run this and is game over, we are going to be seeing the message. Press R to restart. And we finally have finished this game. Congratulations. Happy playing. Of course, you wanted to see the super collector where you have the car and the passenger there. It's very easy. Just change your fox and coin actors for a game and a passenger, and that will do the trick. Next video, we are going to add sound to our games and we are going to create even more interesting things. Stay tuned. Thank you.